Yeah, so thank you for doing this. You got an album coming out called By Request, and
yes, By
a bunch of
Request.
covers and stuff. And I've been listening to it; sounding good. The band sounds great, and you got a new guitar player in the band. So why don't we start out by talking about him?
I guess he's the youngest member of the group. He's 26. Okay. He joined the group a couple years ago. His name is Garrett Stoner.
Right.
And he was a protege of a guy here in town who's an old friend of mine named Andy Reese. Plays with a lot of folks, a studio guy, but also works with a group called the Time Jumpers here. And he recommended him.
Great.
But and then it's my regular touring group with Gary Malabar on drums. Gary, probably.
I know the name, definitely. I can't say I know him personally.
And David Berard from New Orleans is the bass player, and then I'm playing keys and guitar, and
Very cool. Very cool.
Or all kinds of stuff, I guess, on this record.
So do you usually record with your band, or is this a first?
I've recorded with David and Gary before separately on different projects, and I'd known David for a really long time. I met him probably almost 30 years ago when he was out with he had been with Dr. John for 30 years. When we started playing together, he had just left playing with Mac, and I was in New Orleans working with Allen Toussaint, and I said, I'm looking for a bass player, and he recommended David, who had played on his old stuff back in the 70s and so forth. That's the core of the group, and then some great singers. The Settles family came in and sang background on a few songs, and some great horn players. Robin Ford came in and played guitar on a song with me.
Oh, great.
And my friend Billy Harvey, he came in on a song.
Very cool. So what caused you to want to make a record of kind of covers and things?
Well, I think there were a number of reasons for it. One of them was that it was about time to record a record, and I think my wife had passed away not long before then. I had gone, and we'd been together for 28 years.
Yeah.
And I just was I couldn't sit down and write.
Right.
It took me a few months before I could even play. And once I did, I got into touring for a while, and I just felt like it was interesting because I had always played requests at home for friends when people came over. I love entertaining and having other musicians or just people that, friends of mine that want to come over and hang out, and always ended up playing a song at some point or a set of songs. And I just thought about the great nights that I could remember with great friends and what songs they requested. And so it's some of the songs I played with other people. So I had to keep it very much like the version they knew.
Right.
So Billy Preston, I'm playing very much like the Billy Preston song, except I rearranged the horns on it.
Right.
Because I wanted it, instead of the circus sort of sound, which I dug, I wanted more of like somewhere between Sly and the Family Stone and Stevie Wonder's sort of influenced horn line, where it's just ascending riff. With something like Have You Seen My Baby, I was, it's not my favorite Randy Newman song by any stretch, but I had such a great night. And it was a friend who knew the Flaming Groovies version better than he knew Randy Newman's version. And so I kind of wanted to pay tribute to that. And then I imagined what would it sound like if Little Richard sat in with the Flaming Groovies.
I think about that all the time myself.
And so that's where I came up with that arrangement. I mean, there was a lot of stuff like that with the Beach Boys song. I started playing this groove on the piano with a bass line on the piano. Yep. And then I was like, I sort of imagined if Chess Records had a period in the late 60s where it went psychedelic in 68, 69.
unsettled ocean, through restful waters and deep commotion, often frightened, unenlightened. Sail on, sail on, sail on.
And so it starts off as kind of a kind of a blues groove, and then it goes into this psychedelic place with me playing harmonium and bass harmonicas and all this ethereal stuff. So it was about trying to capture that, those nights, those events, and just it was a bit like reminiscing. I started off playing jazz and blues and R&B and rock and roll and all that, but I needed to play covers to make a living. I needed to play piano bars, jazz bars. I needed to know all the Cole Porter and Jerome Kern and Gershwin's, stuff. And so it's not like playing covers was new to me. And then, I just hadn't done it that much, in my own career, because I write my own stuff.
Yeah. Well, you do cover a wide variety of styles here. I love seeing Ooh Child, which is an old Five Stair Steps tune, followed by the Spaces and Stay With Me.
Yeah.
And I was curious about because I figured, well, maybe you're going to mellow out Stay With Me sometime, but you're rocking right into it.
It has to be. There's no other way to do it. And there's only one. There's like one. I mean, it has two tempos on it, but really it's just 1, 2, 3, go.
Yep.
And I was a big Ian McLagan fan. I thought he did such a great job of sort of introducing his own way of playing, American blues and rock and roll. Obviously I knew where it all came from. I listened to all of the old stuff long before the Small Faces were around, but I just loved the way he played, and had a chance to play with him as well as Rod Stewart a few times, and I just always loved him.
Yeah. And your piano playing is all over the place on the record. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed Brickyard Blues. Obviously, Allen Toussaint, someone you listen to quite a bit.
Well, I tried to run my game. She said, man, that's the same old thing I've heard before. And I'm too tired to go to your show again and again. And she started to explain. She said, man, I ain't saying what you're playing just can't make it, but I just can't take
David's on the original, actually. That was one where my bass player David Berard was he was on the original Toussaint version of it. Yeah, before Frankie Miller did it.
Very cool. And have you any personal interactions with Allen Toussaint over the years yourself?
Yeah, we played together a bunch. He produced some music of mine, and he produced a couple songs for 12 Tales, that album of some years back. And I think it was 2014 or something.
Right.
And so I've been a huge fan of his. He'd been a huge influence of mine since I was a kid, since I was probably 13. And I just, obviously I learned how to arrange, because of Allen Toussaint. I learned a lot. And not just horns, but how rhythm sections arranged, between him and John Simon, I learned probably more about arranging than anyone.
Very cool.
And so, whenever I was in New Orleans, he would come out to the gig and we would sit in, he'd sit in and we'd play together at forehand and piano stuff. And he was a sweet, sweet dude.
Yeah, yeah. My favorite story. I've only been to New Orleans once, and I arrived there early in the morning, like 5 a.m. in the airport, and I'm like all groggy. I'd been flying from New Zealand, and as I'm entering or leaving the airport, on the other side of the staircase or whatever, the escalator, is Allen Toussaint in full regalia. You know,
Always,
I mean, he's
always,
dressed.
yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. It's like, well, you can't get a better greeting from New Orleans than that.
No, it doesn't get much better. No, he's great.
Yeah, yeah. Now you've worked with a number of musicians or producers over the years, like Cowboy Jack Clement and Mitchell Froom and Allen Toussaint. What do you get from working with those folks that kind of we can hear on this record?
Well, I mean, this is probably the fourth record I produced for myself, and I had worked with a lot of great producers, certainly when I started out. And then there was a period where I just really wanted to produce it myself, because I was having I guess I was sort of demanding in a way of some of the producers I was working with at a certain point. And I just felt like I just want to get what I want to get. And I did that for a few records. And after those 3 records, I felt like I needed to go back to school and learn from some folks. And so when I did 12 Tales, I thought I would record, basically a 45 with 6 producers.
Right.
First person I called was Cowboy, who was the first person that ever hired me for a gig when I was 17. My very first session.
Not bad.
I flew into Nashville from California, and I walked into his house as Jerry Lee Lewis was walking out, and it was
you're
like
17.
Yeah, and I'm 17. Yeah, and I get inside, and it's like Elvis's Las Vegas band from 71 or 72. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe what was happening, what I was there for, and that I was filling in for him when he left. Yeah,
right.
I mean, the whole thing was like. And the point is that Cowboy and I stayed friends over the years, and he was the first person I called, and
right.
he was kind of instrumental in having other producers get interested. So I asked him, then I asked Allen Toussaint, and I went down to New Orleans and I met with him at his house, and I played for him for a couple hours. And that was kind of scary, because I mean, we'd played together before, but sitting in, at his house playing piano in front of him for 2 hours, and he was writing the lyrics out at the same time he was charting it.
Right.
And there wasn't, lots of smiles or congratulations. He was just all business right there.
Right.
And got a call a couple weeks later. He wanted to do a couple songs, and and so it kind of went like that. Reached out to Mitchell Froom and Greg Cohen. He produced my very first album. Well, ill-fated first album. We recorded the first album twice. Actually, the first 2 albums twice. At least part of the first album. So Greg Cohen, I had loved from all the work he had done with Tom Waits and John Zorn and Ornette Coleman and all the different records he had produced and arranged. And he and I had reconnected. We had ended up being on some session together, not in the same room, but when I found out where he was, I gave him a call. He was in Berlin. And I just love the guy. And that band was really, really fun to play with as well. But, I've been fortunate that people are into playing with me, I guess.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Now, getting back to the album, there's a track I wanted to touch on. You cover a relatively obscure Solomon Burke tune called Can't Nobody Love You.
Don't know how to love you like I do. Well, can't know
This is actually the second Solomon Burke song I've covered on a record. On my third album, I covered "Cry to Me." I played it a bit more New Orleans style, but
right.
I learned this song. I was in a band when I was like 15 years old called the Hottentots. It was mostly older musicians. It was kind of part of that like 60s garage band revival.
Right.
So I was the kid in the group playing a Vox Continental, and we were playing old R&B and garage rock and roll stuff, right? And we played that version of the Zombies of it. Zombies did a version of it.
Yep.
And that's how I first heard it. And then I heard Solomon Burke's version. And I went, "Oh, this is freaking amazing," And so I don't know. I tried it out on guitar, and I liked the way it felt.
Right.
So I just kept it there.
Very cool. Yeah, I love it. Love it. Love it. So, are you able to perform? Are you doing any gigs, or is it everything locked down there?
Things are pretty locked down. I have a gig at the end of the month with a limited audience, and it's going to be for the album release,
right?
Here at City Winery, and I'm going to have the whole group together for the first time since we recorded.
And when was that?
And
how long ago?
We finished around this time last year.
Oh God.
And the quartet and I, the four of us, the last shows we did were at the end of February last year. So we'll be playing about 1 year from the last time we played together.
Man.
David's come up here a couple times from New Orleans, and we've played, and my guitar player Garrett lives here in town, so every once in a while I see him, but it's been few and far between. And after that, man, I don't know. I mean, there's something still holding in March. I mean, last year was going to be the busiest year I'd had in 20 years. And this year was going to be busier. Everything from last year got pushed into this year, and now it's getting pushed into 23 because everything got pushed forward a year. So I'm grateful.
Right.
For the work, I mean but it's been a long time since I've been paid.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people feeling that one.
You can't get paid until you play the gig.
Man, oh man, it's tough. Well, yeah, come down here if you get a chance.
Man,
we'd love to see you. Love to hear you.
Hey,
in the meantime,
let me know. I'll be there.
with the record. It's out in a couple of days, so that's very exciting. You feeling good about it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's different in a way because it's, when you write your own stuff, there's a personal aspect to it. This is just fun, and I think that's what I wanted the record to be anyway. Was that I wanted it to be fun I wanted anyone that was listening to feel like you were at my house, and that's why I recorded it the way I did, live.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for talking to me live. I appreciate it. Right, and hopefully we'll see you time in the near future. In the meantime, have a great day.
Thanks. Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.